Yo, 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 yo. What's good? This is your guy, Manny. Welcome to the Talking Sports with Manny podcast. So you guys are viewing live from the Talking Sports with Manny YouTube channel. We're going to run my intro, and we got so much to talk about. Let's get it. So, man, I got several things to talk about, but before we talk about more, let's just go ahead and talk about the waiver wire pickups for Week 14. So Elijah Moore could be a good pickup for you guys. Amari Cooper's hurt. There's no status on how long he's going to be out, but with him being down and with Joe Flacco possibly being the QB the rest of the season, because he looks good. He's looked better than most QBs. He's looked better than Deshaun Watson, actually. So Elijah Moore was unlocked by Joe Flacco. Many QBs have tried, and one has been successful. Even in a small sample size, Elijah Moore could be a league winner. He could be a guy that can help you to advance in your playoffs. Playoffs start this week, next week. Most leagues is Week 15. So, but there are some playoffs that start in Week 14. So, Elijah Moore. Then you got Joe Flacco. If you're playing in a Superflex league, Joe Flacco could definitely help your team. I would put Tutu Atwell here. Yes, Cooper Kupp is healthy. Yes, Puka Nacua is healthy. But you just never know. It could be a nice handcuff type of wide receiver, especially for this playoff run. If he's out there in a deep league, you want to rock with Tutu Atwell. Mitch Trubisky, he is going to be a QB that's going to be highly added, especially in Superflex leagues, being that Kenny Pickett is hurt. And it's looking like Kenny Pickett might be hurt multiple weeks, which means this is crunch time. So will I be comfortable starting Mitch Trubisky? No. But if I'm in a deep league like Scott Fishbowl, where it's hard to get a QB in Superflex, yes, you definitely want to grab a Trubisky. Ezekiel Elliott, Ramondre Stevenson is out, most likely 2 to 3 weeks. So Ezekiel Elliott is going to be available. Yes, they have a bad team. Yes, they're struggling. But at the end of the day, volume is key when it comes to fantasy. So Ezekiel Elliott could be a guy that could potentially help your team, especially right now. Who can you actually go out there and find in free agency in the waiver wire for a running back, starting running back? So, yeah, Zeke Elliott, you can purchase him in Dynasty right now. He's going for a 3rd-round pick. Zay Jones could be a good pick. Christian Kirk is out. Most likely could be out for a while. He might miss the entire fantasy playoffs. I don't know. There's no timetable, but he had a core muscle injury. So, yeah, Zay Jones, Parker Washington, one of my favorites. He looks good. He looked like he had great hands. But without a Trevor Lawrence, it kind of makes it tough for Parker Washington, even as Zay Jones. But C.J. Beathard came in and played well last night. So he's also a waiver wire pickup, C.J. Beathard. But, yeah, I'm more interested in Parker Washington, more so in Dynasty. So if you can buy this guy right now for a 3rd, it could be a guy that comes in, takes a place of a guy like Zay Jones if he leaves after this season. So also, Tank Dell out for the season. So look for Noah Brown and Robert Woods. We know that C.J. Stroud makes anybody look good. I mean, he made Brevin Jordan look good last week. So, yeah, look for Noah Brown, look for Robert Woods, one of those two guys. And if you're in a deep league where you're looking for a flex play, either one of those guys could be a solid flex play this up-and-coming week. Jake Browning, he looked phenomenal last night. Part 2, Jamar Chase catching that long 70-plus reception. But at the end of the day, it's hard to find QBs, like I said. Jake Browning could be a pretty good QB for you off of the waiver wire. Also, you want to look at a guy like Kenneth Gainwell. You want to go ahead and have him. We don't know the status of Swift. I believe Swift got hurt. Even if Swift didn't get hurt, the good thing is heading into the playoff stretch, you want to have these handcuffs because these handcuffs is going to be key. Cuff your QBs, cuff your RBs. They are the hardest things to find off of the waiver wire right now, especially in Superflex leagues. So, yeah, Kenneth Gainwell could be a piece that could help your team. Tajay Spears, they said that Derrick Henry is in concussion protocol. Then the coach says he's not in concussion protocol. Do not believe anything you hear. It is lion season right now. So, yes, Tajay Spears could be a guy that could step in and give you lots of volume. I mean, receiving, rushing the ball. He played well. He had 75 yards rushing. So, there's more to come from this guy. And then he also had some receptions as well. Quentin Johnston, also Dearness Johnson. Dearness Johnson seems to be the pass catcher back in that Jags offense. So I like him there. And then also the direct handcuff to Travis Etienne. If Etienne is to go down, you're going to see tons of Dearness Johnson. And this is the time of year where you start to see people getting hurt. One injury, then you see teams holding these guys out until the playoffs. So it could be a potential. So you want to grab a lot of these handcuffs. Elijah Mitchell, he's another one. You want to go ahead and have him right now. You don't want to wait for something to happen to Christian McCaffrey, knocking on wood, and then now you're scrambling trying to get an Eli Mitchell. A lot of the league's trade deadline is over, so you want to go ahead and make the best of your pickups. And last but not least, Jonathan Mingo. He's starting to play a little better as the year has gone on. So, who knows? Jonathan Mingo could be a guy that catches fire towards the end of the season. He might be a guy that you might be forced to play as a third or fourth flex if you play in the deep leagues. But other than that, he's more of like a stash, and then kind of like a wait and see to see what kind of happens there. But yeah, those are the waiver wire pickups. Once more, Elijah Moore, Joe Flacco, Tutu Atwell, Mitch Trubisky, Zeke Elliott, Zay Jones, Parker Washington, Noah Brown, or Robert Woods, CJ Beathard, Jake Browning, Kenneth Gainwell, Tajay Spears, Quentin Johnston, Dearness Johnson, Elijah Mitchell, and Jonathan Mingo. So you guys go ahead and grab these guys, and hopefully these guys help you to gain some success this year. Good luck to you, those of you guys that have made the playoffs. Good luck to those of you guys that are playing Dynasty and that are planning already for next year. And if you're in redraft and you're out of the playoffs, like, what do you do, right? It's like that spot of fantasy right now. You're like, okay, well, I've lost. It's over with. Don't give up. Check out your matchups. And if it's somebody that you hate in your league and it's somebody that you can knock out of the playoffs or make a life difficult for them, you should do it. Something I did, I tried to knock out one of my nemesis in one of my leagues in the home league, and I almost beat him, but I lost by 3 points. Had I beat him, he would have been out of the playoffs. So that brings me joy. Create your own joy in Dynasty. Don't give up. Keep playing in redraft. Because when you stop playing, it's just like, well, that's kind of why I've gotten away from redraft, because redraft is not as fun as it used to be. I'm more of a Dynasty guy right now, a keeper guy. There has to be something to play for. Or maybe you are in a redraft league to where you have to continue to play, and let's say those who finish last might get the first pick, or wherever the case may be. You have to incentivize something, or you're playing, like in my particular league, if you continue to play and if you score the most points in the league, you get $10 each week that you score the most. So it kind of incentivizes people to continue to play. Just figure out something, because with redraft, once you've kind of been out of it, it's just kind of tough to kind of keep going. It's tough to kind of make the league and keep the league competitive. So that's that. But let's go ahead and talk about the game yesterday. The game yesterday was pretty good between the Jags and the Jags and Cincinnati Bengals. Didn't know what to expect. I didn't see this being much of a matchup. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Jake Browning looked amazing. He had over 350 yards passing. He had a passing touchdown. Joe Mixon looked great. He looked amazing. 19 carries, 68 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. Jake Browning had a rushing touchdown as well. Jamar Chase looked amazing. 11 receptions, 149 yards receiving, and a receiving touchdown off of 12 targets. Jamar Chase shows why he is special. He shows why he is a generational talent. And I can see a Marvin Harrison coming into the league and potentially having a similar type of success, because when you have generational players, they produce regardless of situation. And Jamar Chase is special. He's special. Joe Mixon also added 6 receptions in the passing game for 49 yards. Tyler Boyd, man, he had a so-so game. He had 5 receptions, 37 yards, but he also threw an interception. And Jamar Chase tried to throw the ball, and he threw a pass to Jake Browning for -7 yards. So it was a pretty interesting game, but at the end of the day, the Bengals were able to pull this thing off. Now, the Jags did play well. Trevor Lawrence with over 250 yards passing, 2 passing touchdowns, no interceptions, but he was sacked twice. Travis Etienne had an okay game, 11 carries for 45 yards in the score. And because of Travis Etienne, he's the reason why I ended up losing. And I was mad, but you know what? It is what it is. I can't be mad at him because I do have plenty Travis Etienne shares in Dynasty. But, man, shout out to Evan Ingram, man. 9 receptions, 82 yards, and a score. This guy won me so many games this week. He was targeted 9 times and caught all 9. Okay, and if you're playing in a super tight end premium, man, this guy went off. Just off of 9 receptions is 18 points in my league, just off of the receptions alone. Zay Jones, like I said, you guys, he's the guy that you guys want to go ahead and pick up. 5 receptions for 78. And, even Parker Washington, the guy that's going to take maybe the biggest hit with Christian Kirk being gone, is probably going to be Calvin Ridley, man. He had 8 targets, but he only caught 4. I don't know what it is with Calvin Ridley this year. He's just up and down. It's just up and down. And if you can sell a Calvin Ridley right now, you might want to sell him, especially if you are just tired of the heartache and the headache. But yeah, man, the Jags, I thought they were going to pull this thing off. Had they won, they controlled their destiny for the best record in the AFC. But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the standings right now. Let's kind of see where everybody is right now. So the Miami Dolphins are the number 1 team in the AFC. They have the seed of all seeds as of right now with a 9-3 record, followed by Baltimore, who's also 9-3. The Chiefs are 8-4, and they're the 3rd seed. Jags are the 4th seed with 8-4 record. And then you have Pittsburgh at 5. You have the Browns at 6. And then you have right now the Colts at 7 with that final playoff spot. You have teams like Houston and even Indianapolis fighting for that last spot of the playoffs. But also, both teams are in striking distance for that AFC South title versus Jacksonville. So Jacksonville losing, and then they potentially could lose Trevor Lawrence, but they're saying that with Trevor Lawrence, he doesn't require surgery, that it seems to be a high ankle sprain. So we don't know how that's going to work out. But what we do know is it's going to be a 3-team battle in that AFC South. So it's pretty interesting. Now, you got Cincinnati who wins, and then you got the Bills who are also fighting. You even have the Chargers at 5-7. They're all fighting for that last spot, those last 2 spots. So it's awesome. December football is the best football because it's so competitive. So we're going to see what happens moving forward. But, yeah, you have several different teams that are still in it. I think the teams that are out of it right now are really the Jets, the Titans, and obviously New England. Mathematically, the Titans are not, Titans and Jets are not eliminated, but man, 4-8, come on, man. These guys are pretty much done. I don't see any miracles happening for either one of these teams. Now, we go to the NFC. You got the Eagles with a 10-2 record. We're going to break this thing down a little bit. Eagles have the seed of all seeds right now, but that's just after being blasted by San Francisco. Then you have San Francisco at 2 with a 9-3 record. You have Detroit at 9-3, Dallas at 9-3. Now, here's the interesting thing. Dallas, being the number 5 team right now, they are going to be playing Philly. If Dallas wins on Sunday, and if 49ers win, 49ers get that number 1 seed, and then obviously Philly will drop from 1 to 5, which is where Dallas is right now. So every game matters at this point in December. It's like 1 win puts you, home field, 1 loss takes you out of it. Then you have the Lions who are going to be battling Green Bay in their division. But, I mean, they just have such a big lead against Green Bay and even such a big lead versus Minnesota. But it's pretty cool to see Minnesota and Green Bay right now at the 6 and 7 spot with the Rams on their tail, with Seattle on their tail, okay? You can even throw in Tampa Bay and the Saints. They have a long shot, but still very possible because a lot of these teams are at 6 and 6 right now, and then you have 2 teams that are at 5 and 7. It's all possible. You have teams that are completely out of it, like the Giants, the Bears, Washington. They're not out of it mathematically, but come on, man. I mean, I just don't see how those bottom feeders make the playoffs. So it's going to be interesting to watch the NFC race. It's going to be interesting to watch the AFC race. These races, based off of whatever teams that are fighting, it translates to fantasy. Like, you want these players that are fighting for something. Like Brock Purdy is going to continue to fight. Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott. So some of these QBs, Detroit Lions players, these are players that you want to have on your fantasy team. Now, if you have players that are on bad teams, such as the Bears or Washington, or sometimes some of those guys are playing for situations, but then sometimes some of those guys have given up. Okay, so you want to choose the players that you start very wisely moving forward as you approach your fantasy playoffs. Let's go ahead and talk about this NBA tournament. NBA in-season tournament, however you want to, whatever it's called. The NBA got it right. The NBA got it right. I loved the games yesterday. I'm going to pull up a few of these games. It's only 2 games, but so you have your bracket. And last night you had a matchup between Celtics and the Pacers, and that game was electric. The Pacers were able to defeat the Celtics 122 to 112, but it was a game that kind of went back and forth, and then Halliburton and this crew just kind of went off in the fourth quarter and just kind of took this thing over. But when you look at the Celtics, right, here's why the in-season tournament is so important. Look at the Celtics; they're the best team. We're gonna go back and look at the standings for the NBA. But the Celtics are the best team in the East by far. But then you have a team like the Pacers. They're an up-and-coming team. They have an up-and-coming superstar in Tyrese Halliburton. And this in-season tournament means more to the Pacers than it does to the Celtics. Celtics see it as, okay, another regular season game. We're going to play hard. We're going to try to win like normal. But, man, the Pacers gave it their all. Even with Tatum having 32 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, and a steal, and Jaylen Brown having 30 points, 9 rebounds, people say, oh, this duo has scored X amount of points before a certain age. I don't know what the age is. I don't know what the point is, but this duo has been as good as any duo in the league and even in league history. Derek White pitched in for the Celtics with 18 points, 4 rebounds, and 8 assists, a steal and a block. I've loved what Derek White has been able to add to this team. But the thing with the Celtics is when you go to the bench, right? Hauser had a great game. He had 5 threes yesterday, but it's like, when next will he have 5 threes? Luke Cornett, Pritchard. You have all these different guys off the bench that are just not gamers. They're not gamers. They're not special. They're not even like quality backups. And that's kind of where this team is going to struggle. They're going to have to make a move. Now, their top 5 guys, I mean, amazing. Obviously, with Horford starting, they're dealing with injuries to KP. But KP being there kind of like helps this team, helps the depth of this team, the entire bench, the entire totality of this team. They need KP back ASAP. But let's go ahead and focus on the Pacers. This team that won the game. And you have Buddy Hield, who had a great game. He had 21 points. He hit 4 threes. Buddy Hield was somebody I was frustrated with to start the year, even in fantasy basketball. Yes, I do play fantasy basketball. And I traded away Buddy Hield. That's just how upset I was with this guy, especially in a dynasty league. But Halliburton had 26 points, 10 rebounds, 13 assists. This is his first triple-double, and he came up big, and he was clutch. He hit 5 threes. He shot 11, made 5. Those are great percentages there. Miles Turner, who's going to be he's going to be an all-star this year. I just see that for him. 17 points, 10 rebounds. Then you have Bruce Brown, who was a price acquisition, had a solid game, 13 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals. He does whatever you need him to do. And Obi Toppin, who has had an up-and-down season, continues to play pretty well these last few weeks. So he had pitched in with 12. Now, when you go to the bench, here's what separates them from a team like the Celtics. These guys actually have a decent bench. Naismith had a great game, 14 points. He also hit some clutch, crazy-looking shots in the fourth quarter to help propel their team to a win. Mathurin, he's one of the better rookies last year. He's come off the bench, 16 points. 5 rebounds. And then my guy Jordan Ward on the bench. You have Isaiah Jackson on the bench. You also have Nemhard and then also TJ McConnell. So, yes, these are not great names outside of Matherin. Even Jarice Walker's here as well. But I trust the Pacers bench more than I trust the Celtics. So, that being said, the NBA got it right with this in-game tournament. In-season tournament. I am enjoying it. Now, the schedule is kind of crazy, but at least it kind of gives the players something to look forward to. Who will be the team that gets that first NBA Cup? That's what they're calling it. So another game last night was the Pelicans versus Sacramento Kings. It seems like the younger teams, well, these two teams are young between Pelicans and the Kings, but it seems like the younger teams are going to take this more seriously than the vet teams. But yeah, Pelicans won 127-117. They were led by Brandon Ingram, who had 30 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists. Also, Herb Jones played well, 23 points, 5 and 5. Valanciunas, 18 and 11. CJ McCullough, 17 points, 7 assists. Zion Williams, 10 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals. He was just solid. They didn't need his scoring. They just needed his presence and his leadership, and he was able to provide that. Off the bench, you had Trey Murphy with a big 16 points. Shout out to these guys. And then when you go to the Sacramento Kings, Sabonis had his normal types game, 26 points, 13 rebounds, and 10 assists. What I want to ask you guys, do you guys think that Sabonis is closer to Joker, or is it Alpi Şengün that plays for that plays for the Rockets? Who do you think out of the two, between Sabonis and Şengün, who is the closest to a Nikola Jokic? There can only be one Jokic, but both of these big men pass the ball pretty well. They score pretty well, and they rebound. So Sabonis had 26 points, 13 rebounds, and 10 assists. Shout out to him for another triple-double. Fox had 30 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists himself. And then you had Malik Monk off the bench with 5 threes, 7 for 14 from the field in general, with a 21-point type game. So that's it for the NBA in-season tournament. Tonight, I'm recording this episode 12/5/23. This is in the evening. And you have the New York Knicks versus the Bucks tonight. Then you have the Lakers versus Phoenix. Now, with the Bucks, they're a team that are one of the better teams. Let's see how serious Giannis takes this game. I do expect New York to come out and play pretty well and try to, win this and continue to advance in the tournament. Lakers and Phoenix is a pretty interesting one. I do think the Lakers have their whole team healthy outside of Gabe Vincent, who has not been a great acquisition just yet. But at some point in December, players become eligible to get traded. So I can see the Lakers making a move late December to February. In between there should be more players coming, but they should try to rock with this team and kind of see where they are as a team. In terms of Phoenix, they're still probably missing Bradley Beal. I don't know when Bradley Beal's coming back. It's starting to look like a bad trade for them. You're going to have Booker and you're going to have KD. And really Booker and KD is enough. That combo right there can carry any team to as far as they want to go. So I'm looking forward to the games tonight for the Lakers. Let's go ahead and talk about a few of the NFL games that I enjoyed over the weekend. We talked a little bit about that San Francisco game, but let's go ahead and talk about Thursday night. Prime time has been getting things right, putting the right games on TV. Thursday night was a beautiful game between the Dallas Cowboys and the Seattle Seahawks. I enjoyed the game. Geno Smith had one of his better games of the season with 334 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. 3 of those touchdowns went to DK Metcalf, who had a game, 6 receptions, 134 yards, 3 touchdowns. And the dynasty community was getting rid, they were saying, get rid of DK Metcalf. He doesn't have it anymore. He's washed. And I'm like, man, this is DK Metcalf. This is the guy that you guys said was the dynasty wide receiver 1 for so many years. But DK Metcalf looked amazing. Jackson Smith and Jigba played great, man, with 7 receptions, 62 yards. All that was missing out of him was a score or 2. Lockett was there as well. So they had their full complement of weapons. With Kenneth Walker being out, Charbonnet stepped in, 19 carries, 60 yards, and a score. Also added a 39-yard reception as well. We don't know what the status is with Kenneth Walker this week. He most likely plays, but there's a chance that Charbonnet does not play because he got hurt. Dak Prescott continues to be solid, man. 299 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. You have Pollard, who rushed 20 times for 68 yards in the score. CeeDee Lamb continues to do CeeDee Lamb type stuff. 12 receptions, 116 yards in the score. He looks great. Jake Ferguson, he's going to be a star, man. He's athletic. He's everything you want out of your tight end. And stardom is here for this guy. 6 receptions, 77 yards in the score. And then obviously Brandon Cooks, who's been consistent. He doesn't get more than 4 targets a game most games, but man, he comes in. He's like a boom or bust touchdown guy in fantasy, and he just continues to do his thing. So yeah, man, shout out to the Cowboys. Even though I hate the Cowboys, Cowboys played well. I was just excited to see a pretty good game. Excited to see a pretty good game, and obviously I have some of these players on my fantasy team, so it was lots of points to be scored, and that was a great way to kind of kick off the week with 2 teams that were hungry for playoff positioning and also putting up points. The Commanders got destroyed by the Dolphins, man, 45-15. I mean, Devin Achane had 17 carries, 73 yards, and 2 scores. Tyreek Hill had 5 receptions, 157 yards, and 2 scores himself. Tua had 280 yards passing and 2 passing touchdowns. Now, the Commanders didn't really have much of any highlights in this game other than Sam Howell being Sam Howell, which means he's doing some pretty good things. But the Commanders fans are kind of split on Sam Howell right now. Sam Howell played well. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. He could have played better, but man, sometimes you're just so down and you're in a hole. I'm just so split on Eric Bieniemy. I don't know if I want him in DC. If I don't want him in DC, that would be another topic for another show for my Commanders pod when I do decide to give the Commanders any of my time. Man, shout out to the Colts beating the Titans. That was an exciting game, a back-and-forth game. Gardner Minshew had 312 yards passing and 2 passing touchdowns. Derrick Henry is still great. I don't know how this guy continues to do this at a high level. 102 yards rushing and 2 rushing scores. Michael Pittman, I want to apologize. I was wrong about Michael Pittman this year. It was more so being with Anthony Richardson. But even then, it didn't even affect him. This guy had 11 receptions for 105 yards and a score. So shout out to him. One of the worst games on Sunday was the Chargers and the Patriots, and the Chargers won this game 6-0 versus the lowly Patriots. Man, it was crazy. The Patriots were still even in this game. Justin Herbert had 212 yards, passing, no score, and he looked bad. If you had him in fantasy, you were kind of mad. But yeah, it just is what it is. Devontae Parker led these guys with receiving yards, 4 receptions for 64 yards. I've told people to pick up Devontae Parker. Don't ask me why, but I mean, that's 10 points right there. And in fantasy, man, sometimes it's tough to get 10 points. The Lions are now 9-3, and they defeated the Saints 33-28. Derek Carr he was terrible. He looked terrible to me in the game. Taysom Hill continues to do some amazing things, but let's go ahead and talk about Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta has looked great on his team. He had 9 targets. He caught all 9 for 140 yards receiving and a touchdown. Sheesh. That is some crazy numbers for a tight end. Amon-Ra St. Brown continues to be, very consistent. He had 2 receptions for 49 yards and a score. This is possibly the worst game of Amon-Ra St. Brown's season. He usually is up at 14 plus every single game. This game he had 12 plus, but that 12 plus is still solid. At least he's giving you double digits in fantasy. So you got to love what the Lions are doing, both in real life and in fantasy. Jack Campbell led these guys in tackles, 2 tackles for losses. But yeah, that was a pretty exciting game between the Lions and the Saints. I'm glad when I see NFL teams out here scoring double digits in points. All right, so the Falcons defeat the Jets. Not much to really talk about there. Bijan Robinson wasn't even used effectively. You have the Cardinals beating the Steelers for their 3rd win of the season, 24-10. Trey McBride, man, 8 receptions, 89 yards, and a score. He is he's crazy good. Then you have James Conner with 25 carries, 105 yards, and 2 scores. He looked good as well. Several players scored multiple touchdowns this week, and James Conner was one of them. The Texans defeated the Broncos. This is a back-and-forth game. It could have gone either way. But Russell Wilson, I blame you. It's your fault why you guys are in this predicament in terms of in the 4th quarter trying to make plays sometimes. He's looked good recently, and I'm not saying that Russell Wilson is the reason why Denver is losing games or anything like that. I'm just simply saying this particular game, it was Russell Wilson's fault that they lost the game. Javonte Williams, 13 carries, 46 yards. But man, shout out to Nico Collins having a career day. This guy right here was amazing. He was targeted 12 times. He caught 9 receptions. He had 191 yards receiving and a score. I'm trying to tell you guys, CJ Stroud makes players better than what they've seen. He makes players look good. Brevin Jordan, of all people, 3 receptions for 64 yards. CJ Stroud is a special talent. CJ Stroud is him. He's Timothy Stroud. That's what he is. And when he scores a touchdown, he's out there doing the squabble. He's out there doing his thing. He's out there doing his thing because he is that guy. And he's leading the entire league right now in passing yards, and they're actually winning. This guy should be and possibly will be in the running for MVP. I'm just being real with you guys. He gets a few more wins. He wins that division. He gets into the playoffs with like a three seed or whatever. You can be talking about CJ Stroud as an MVP candidate, especially if his touchdown numbers goes up during this run. They say they go on a crazy run in December, make the playoffs, only lose one game the rest of the way, get to 10, 11 wins. Man, I mean, it changes everything. All I'm saying is CJ Stroud is special, and we are witnessing greatness right now. So, yeah, shout out to them. Great win for them. Let's go again. Oh, yeah, speaking of Texas, Devin Singletary didn't play well this time, but this time it was Dameon Pierce. The Buccaneers defeat the Panthers 21-18. Chuba Hubbard had a great game, 25 carries for 104 yards and 2 scores. What happened to Miles Sanders? He was supposed to be that guy, supposed to be this and that, and he's just, I don't know. Chuba Hubbard is the guy in Carolina. They still might add him back next year, but at least if you are in Dynasty, if you are in redraft, Chuba Hubbard, he's a good pickup right now in waivers if he's still out there, which would be insane to me. Mike Evans, man, he's special. He had 7 receptions for 162 yards and a score, including that long 70-yard plus touchdown that he scored. This guy has now had a 1,000-yard season every single season that he's been in the league. That is impressive. That's already a Hall of Fame career. If he stops right now and does nothing else, that's Hall of Fame. All right, moving on along. You have the Rams versus the Browns. Puka Nacua, he is the first rookie this year with 1,000 yards. He had 4 receptions for 105 yards on the score. Kyren Williams is the gift that keeps giving, man. This guy is amazing. 21 carries, 88 yards and a score. Matthew Stafford, 279 yards passing, 3 scores. So shout out to him. The Browns, they gave it all they had. Flacco was out there slinging this thing, unlocking guys like Elijah Moore. Just couldn't get it done. The 49ers defeat the Eagles 42-19. They destroyed these guys. You guys can go on my TikTok, Talking Sports with Manny. You guys can find me there. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in depth. Brock Purdy, man, 314 yards, 4 touchdowns. You have McCaffrey, 17 carries for 93 yards on the score. Deebo Samuel, man, 4 receptions, 116 total yards and 2 scores, man. He was phenomenal. Chiefs versus Packers, man. Shout out to Jordan Love. He sat behind Rodgers for 2 years. Nobody even knew if this guy was going to be good, if he was going to be bad. All this guy came in to do was just play and try to be consistent. Started the year well. They kind of fell off. Now he's kind of back where he left off to start the season. 267 yards passing, 3 scores. He was just slinging that ball. Christian Watson had 2 scores. I mean, he's unlocking people. He's making people look better. Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs. I love the build for the Packers. All of their top wide receivers and tight ends, pass catchers are all either first year, second year. It's crazy. Luke Musgrave, Kraft, rookies, Jaden Reed, rookie, Romeo Dobbs. Oh, man. I was like, where's that sound coming from? My bad, guys. I was scared. I said, is my phone on? I mean, I said, who's calling me? But anyways, yeah, I love the build for the Packers. I love every young wide, even guys like Wicks, and the list goes on and on and on. Go look at their roster. These guys are young. They are hungry, and they're going to add more weapons for Jordan Love next year. That means another receiver, most definitely, possibly 2 backs. I see AJ Dillon leaving. I see Aaron Jones also leaving as well. But shout out to Pacheco for continuing to be consistent. He had 18 carries for 110 yards and a score. Travis Kelce continues to do well, 4 receptions for 81 yards. But this game came down to Patrick Mahomes. There was a play where he went out of bounds, somebody hit him, and then they want to call it personal foul. But then on the flip side, they throw a Hail Mary, they don't get it, or it was another error. Okay, it was a plastic pass interference on Valdez, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and they didn't call it. I mean, it's just a makeup call for the call that was, brutally missed when they try to hit Patrick Mahomes out of bounds. So it is what it is. They lost the game, but you can't blame the refs. Patrick Mahomes said, hey, man, you have to lay it out on the field. You have to do what you have to do. You have to win the game on the field, and you cannot count on the refs to bail you out. So, guys, that's the show. That's the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Drop some waiver wire gems, drop some NBA stuff, and we also did some NFL stuff. I'm going to catch you guys on that next episode. We out. Peace.